I've seen a fair share of product strategy gone wrong. And I've seen situations where product teams exist without a clearly defined or written strategy, but they kind of know what they're doing. What's the much ado about product strategies anyway? Product strategies define fundamentally the comprehensive plan and approach how a product is supposed to achieve some goals and objectives over time. I recently heard someone say, in a plan, you kind of know what you're doing. You have a set of steps and the things that you want to execute. But the strategy actually involves some uncertainty and some ideas around bets that a product or a business is willing to place in order to reach an outcome. So there's a level of uncertainty around strategy, which is one of the things that makes it quite difficult to put in place. Product strategy involves making some strategic decisions regarding various aspects of the product development, the launch, the ongoing management, the activities that are needed to ensure alignment with the company's vision and the ever-changing market demands. It basically answers the question of how are we going to get to the goal and the vision that we have put in place. I have a video that talks about product strategy versus product vision, which you can watch and see the differences between that and how vision could also go wrong. But today we're talking about product strategy. Let's get into it. The first area that I would like to touch on before we go into this in detail is the fallacy of prioritization frameworks. I can never say this enough. The strength of your product strategy is not in the complexity and the dynamic nature of the prioritization framework or whatever framework that you've applied in the product strategy. In fact, that you have a written strategy somewhere does not necessarily mean that your strategy is right or it was well done. I've seen situations where there's no clearly written document about the strategy, but there is a common understanding within the team about what they're trying to achieve, where they're going, the bets that they're placing, and it works for them. Different teams, different things. But back to the prioritization. This is how strategy happens in many organizations. The CEO or the VP of product kind of gives an indication of key outcomes we want to improve in the next couple of months. And the product team is saddled with the responsibility of doing some conversations around what are the things in the product that they need to improve. By the way, there's a likelihood that there are some outstanding work that has not been completed but been planned for in the past, which the product team would like to roll over. So this context is also brought into what will be fed into the product strategy. Now the product team comes up with a list of features that needed to be prioritized. These features could come from conversations with customers or even outstanding work that has not been completed that they know they need to get done. This makes up a list of features that needs to be prioritized for the next quarter, for example. As always, the engineering resources are not always sufficient to execute on all these feature ideas, and then there's a need for prioritization. So they start with some form of understanding around how do these features stack up as a form of return on investment. Then there's an understanding or realization that, well, all features are not built the same. They do not execute at the same time frame. They do not involve the same complexity. Add some perception of size and complexity so that at least we are investing in the least complex features that generates the biggest return on investment. And then we double down and say there has to be a consideration for which of these features align to the strategic direction. So it makes sense to implement features at low complexity, yield a high return on investment, but actually strategically align with the direction that the business is going into. So let's weight return on investment by this factor, weight the complexity by a factor, and then strategic alignment by another factor so that we have a score and the feature that scores the highest to make it to the top of the list. And so the product team comes with this list that have been categorized based on their return on investment, complexity, and strategic alignment, and some magical score. In many cases, you probably have the VP of product or the CEO slide in some features into that list. You organize that prioritization, everything now looks different. That's usually the process that many organizations go through. For many organizations, that's just good enough, sufficient way of, we kind of know what we are doing here with respect to prioritization that is leading us towards our product strategy. If you've made it this far, you have probably experienced how this process works within your organization or at least learned about it. Now, what is the problem with this? While this might be an effective process where it matters, especially for a product organization that is not the most mature. But at the end of this process, it doesn't actually yield a very good understanding of where we are going and what we are doing. It just gives us a list of features that we could potentially work on that will yield some return on investment. In some cases, because the CEO's idea will probably trump everyone's idea, and we're just funneling features into a framework and a scoring system that is quite arbitrary, that has no context. It doesn't actually inspire some level of confidence. That's the problem with this. Product frameworks are not necessarily the brain that should be behind product strategy. Frameworks is not the answer. So now I've slandered frameworks. What am I suggesting are some techniques that could be considered? I would highlight 3 things, and this is not an exhaustive list. These are just some of the things that I have found very helpful in conversations with business executives, product leaders, and people that are working on product strategy. One technique is asking helpful questions. Now, helpful is very subjective, but questions like, if we could do only one thing, just one thing, what would matter this quarter? I found that the engineering and product teams that are close to execution are very great at creatively coming up with what could solve problems, which is great and has a place and a time. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they have a very good understanding of the business needs and the direction. So as a person that is influencing or deciding on the product strategy, the questions that you should be asking, or the North Star, should be, if we could do only one thing, what is that one thing that we could do? If we could increase only one outcome, what is that outcome that would improve? If we could develop just one feature, what would it be instead, given these conditions? What would change the game for us significantly? And at that point, the team begins to think outside of these frameworks that just take in some numbers and some scores, and think about the impact of those features that could change the game or that could increase certain outcomes. So asking questions that helps the team to think about the outcomes that are expected or the business is trying to drive towards, or the vision that the business sees. Now, I'm not exactly 100% against prioritization or against frameworks, just that they have the time and place. But the second technique I would also suggest is, instead of prioritizing just a list of features, what if prioritize outcomes? And this could lead to very heated conversations about what matters to the business. This is not about features that users need to see, it's more about outcomes that the business expects to see. And this would involve every stakeholder, from marketing to sales to customer success to product as well, to figure out what outcomes do we want to achieve for the business. Is it getting in more users? Is it improving the experience for existing users? What are the outcomes that are important to the business, which will be the basis for which we decide on what are the things that we should do to improve the outcome. Back to my first point. Now to some ways which decision makers around product strategy can help practically to define and set the strategy within the organization. The first thing is to define very clear principles. There are some principles that we should know, which is our North Star. What exactly are the principles that we are going to work within? This forms the boundaries within which we're thinking and coming up with ideas or making decisions. At the lower level, you have product principles that allows your teams to make decisions by themselves. For example, should they favor simplicity over functionality? Should it be speed over aesthetics? Or is it about reliability? Or is it about more things to get done? So while you have those kind of principles on the product level, within the organization as well, these principles need to be clear. If these principles have changed, then those principles should also be made clear to the team. And those are the things that actually even help to fuel creativity around what the team does with the product strategy. So as a product lead that is responsible for strategy, the principles that you set should actually lead the conversation, and this should be done on the organization level. These are, sometimes we look at the organization's values and we adopt those as principles. But I strongly believe that the organization values are just organizational values with respect to the culture within the organization, not necessarily the principles by which the product strategy should be defined or features should be developed. Secondly, allocate resources very early on to work on product strategy. Part of the mistakes that a lot of organizations make is that they start working on strategy close to when they need to actually start getting stuff done. And this is also the reason why a select team or people need to be working on strategy cross-functionally. It might be from marketing and sales and CS, but at least resources need to be dedicated to that purpose and ensure that they can reduce the perimeter of what they are currently working on so that those people can be available to work on the strategy, and finding very low cost solutions to start actively validating some things and refining and defining some of the things that should go into the product strategies. Don't start working on a strategy a week before you start needing it. It might be someone's primary responsibilities, but the person also needs to be supported by people from other functional areas of the business. And if those people don't see their input into the product strategy as significant, then they don't take it as seriously and things may just become very slow. Thirdly, and I think this is one of the most important things, is organizing teams efficiently. One of the responsibilities of product leaders is to structure teams. This is a lot less about equal distribution of people around teams or squads to say, oh, this squad has 5 engineers and 1 designer and 1 product manager, and that is the same across. But considering the strengths and the area of specializations of different people in the organization, those should make up the teams that help to make product strategy come alive. If you have product managers that are stronger at discovery, those people should be leveraged the best way in the areas that are the most efficient for the work that they need to do. No need to make apologies for, let's say, the number of people that are split across the teams if their outcomes are actually different. As long as they're able to reach strategic objective or come up with what needs to happen, then the teams should be organized effectively for purpose, not just for number. The other thing I will also suggest is don't skip on discovery. There's a saying that discovery eats strategy for breakfast. Honestly, if product discovery is properly and continuously done, strategy becomes very easy. Of course, there'll be trade-offs to make about resource allocation and managing debt against new areas and things like that. But once discovery becomes a part of daily product operations, then at the point where there's a review or updates to be made to the product strategy, all the discovery that has been done in the past actually accumulates to inform the strategy going forward. Again, it's not at the point where we decide to work on product strategy that we start looking at, okay, what do we know about the market? Lastly, it's the role of the product lead to always bring clarity to the team. It's your responsibility to make the team understand the principles and the way teams are organized and the direction and the things that help to make us make a good decision. Clarity also means that the team is very focused on a very limited set of goals. Clarity requires very deep work for a team to define how they work and what they'll be working on and the outcomes that they are hoping to reach. Clarity requires very long time frame to iterate and deep dive on problems and figure out impact and figure out what's working and what's not working. Bring clarity with respect to the conversations that you're having. Bring clarity with how much time you give the team, how much work the team has to focus on, and how the teams are organized so that they are not distracted and they can focus on the area that they need to work on that will execute on the product strategy. That's all I have with respect to how to execute your product strategy effectively. If this was helpful to you, please share it with your product manager friends, and I will catch you in another video. Bye.